Hello, hello, hello. Welcome in, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Welcome in right here, Fantasy Life on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. Kendall, Valenzuela, Adam Ronis with you for the next couple of hours, breaking down everything you need to know for the first round of the NFL playoffs. And of course, getting you ready for any drafts that you might have, whether it be guillotines or some other big name contests. We're going to make sure that you guys are up to date on all of our rankings, which you can find at fantasylife.com, guillotineleagues.com, also where you can do your guillotines as well. Adam, how you doing? We had a draft last night. We'll do another one today. It was good.
Yeah, it was. It was a lot of fun, and everyone needs to jump in those guillotines.
I know they're fun. I had the best team, obviously,
I don't know
and
about that. You're already taking a 0 for the week, so
I know I'm okay with it. I took
you shouldn't
CMC
be.
and James Cook. I'm okay with it. I needed
Yeah,
JSN on that team. I think for the vibes alone, I needed JSN on that team, like just to really show support for the Seattle Seahawks. That's what I needed.
yeah. We'll see how that support goes when you get chopped this week.
I'm not getting chopped, but I will be sad if then I see you bidding on Jackson Smith and Jigba after I did just pick him up. So we'll do another one of those here today and just throughout the rest of the week. Again, guillotineleagues.com is where you can go jump into those guillotines. But we've got news to break down here, Adam, because while we were also drafting yesterday, we got news that the Ravens and Harbaugh have parted ways. I read very different things about how this went down because I did see some other reports that Harbaugh wasn't necessarily expecting it. But either way, the Ravens did fire their head coach, John Harbaugh. That was after 18 seasons with the team. So we heard rumblings about this. It feels like for the last few weeks, especially when we heard, rumors that his relationship with Lamar Jackson just wasn't as good as it used to be. But you can't look at that resume and say that Harbaugh wasn't a fantastic coach. Again, he brought them to a Super Bowl title 2012, 6 AFC North titles, and 193 victories. That's 13 in the postseason as well. And just big news. I think, Adam, he skyrockets up, everyone's coaching board, right? I think he is now the hot commodity that everyone wants, and he'll be at the top of everyone's list for head coaching vacancies for 2026.
Yeah, look, I wasn't surprised by it because you've been hearing rumors that this could happen, and then they don't make the playoffs after being one of the preseason favorites to win the Super Bowl. You have Lamar Jackson. You had a wide open AFC where if they could have gotten in, maybe they could piece it together and make a run. So it wasn't surprising to me, and he'll be sought after by other teams. And sometimes you're there for a long time, and it's time to move on and go in a different direction. And I think that's the way the Ravens felt after, a very disappointing season for them. Even with the way things went, all they needed to do was win on Sunday night and they get in the
Yeah.
playoffs, and they couldn't get it done. Now, I know it came down to a kick. If Luke makes the kick, then we're talking different. They're still playing. Maybe they make a run, maybe he keeps his job, but that's the way life is in the NFL.
Yeah, and you know that the Ravens, and they've shown it to us. I mean, Harbaugh was only their third head coach in their 30-year existence. So the guys that they hire, they really like to have there for a long time, or they would prefer it. So you're going to hear a lot of names going for that Ravens job. And I think this has to be the best job out there that someone can want to go and get, right? Because, and we'll talk on the other side about where maybe Harbaugh can land, but I think there's questions, about what this will mean for Lamar Jackson and his future in Baltimore because I think this comes at a time too when and I don't think it's a coincidence. Like this team knows that they need to get a new contract done with him. And his salary cap for next year or the offseason, I should say, 74.5 million. So maybe a new coach, if he's involved in that process or just kind of knows what's coming, makes it easier to get that long-term deal done with Lamar Jackson. But this has to be the best job out there because you already have the biggest piece, right? You've got a two-time MVP quarterback with you and a team that looks pretty built. There's questions, of course, about Derrick Henry. What can they do with, some of the receivers and whatever else you could look at. But you have one of the biggest pieces that a lot of teams in the NFL are still trying to figure out. So I think this is going to be the biggest job and probably the one that we talk about the most this offseason.
Yeah, we always look at the quarterback first. Do you have that integral piece to make that championship run? And I think many people believe that Lamar Jackson can be that guy. Now, He hasn't gotten past the AFC Championship in his career, whatever the reasons are. But we know that this year he was not healthy, and you could see it. I mean, there was one play in that game where he was running and he looked behind him. I've never seen him do that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So clearly he wasn't healthy. They got to get him healthy. They got him to get him practicing more because there were just too many missed practices, and that probably translated into the games a lot. So the pieces are there, though, at least the quarterback. So, yeah, I think this will be an appealing job for many coaches because when you look at some of the other vacancies, there's questions at the quarterback position
For
and
sure.
a lot of talent across the board in some of the other openings.
I will say, yeah, I think, we read a lot over the past like month, I want to say, about some points of friction between Lamar Jackson and just the coaching staff as a whole. Harbaugh, he was not working out with the spring workouts. He had the new routine of sitting out because we just got used to it, Adam. It was a Wednesday practice, and we just said, well, if Lamar's not there, then that's okay. It's almost like how we talk about Josh Jacobs. If he doesn't practice throughout the week, it feels fine because he usually goes out there. And I think a couple of times, Lamar Jackson was actually unable to go, but we kind of knew that that was coming. But those Wednesdays he would sit out. And I'll just say this: he won. Not to say this is going to happen again, but he did win. Like he's won the NFL MVP award in his first seasons with a new offensive coordinator before. Like we've had it with Todd Monken, we've had it with Greg Roman. So I'm almost looking at this. You know me, I'm going to be positive about it. Maybe a new head coach can take him, to a next level. And it's kind of crazy to think that maybe Lamar Jackson could unlock a new level. But I think that's what they're hoping for. On the other side of this, though, Adam, are you at all nervous that maybe when teams and when fans want a new head coach, when they want a coach to be fired, that their expectations are sky high, that maybe this doesn't go the way that they wanted it to in year one, because it's very hard to get a new head coach in there, and it does happen, but to have a successful year with a first year, I should say, head coach on a new team, I mean, sometimes that can crash and burn too.
Yeah, whenever you hear a fan base scream for a change, the first question you always have to ask is, okay, who you replacing him with, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, who is coming in and going to improve or get the team to another level? Because a lot of times there's just not great candidates out there. So, yeah, that is definitely something that is a concern because you could bring someone in and it's a lot worse. You had a guy there for 18 years, mostly successful. I know we measured things on Super Bowls and they
Yeah.
didn't get one with Lamar Jackson, and they, like I said, they haven't even gotten past the AFC Championship game in that time. So that doesn't mean that you bring someone else in and all of a sudden it's going to be great. So that is definitely a concern. If you are a Baltimore fan, you got to make the right choice, and you hope that that change gets you to that next level that you've been wanting to go to.
It's hard. It's hard to do though. I will say I'm on the other side. I'm a little bit nervous because we know the window's open with Lamar Jackson. We know what he can bring this season. It just wasn't good. Like it wasn't good from every level that we look at. But him being injured most of the time as well, didn't help. But they had blown leads. They didn't have late game execution at all. At some points, we would be yelling at our TVs saying, "What the heck is going on here with this Ravens team?" And I think that was something that became, just to rinse and repeat with Harbaugh. But again, maintaining a winning culture is hard. And I know that like winning culture, they did not get to a Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson, like you said. They won that one back in, what did I say, 2012. But I think they had good enough rosters. I would argue last season, or 2024, I should say. Last season, they had a good enough roster. 2023 and 2019. Like those were 3 years that you probably should have executed a little bit better. And so again, because of that, we're looking at Harbaugh being fired. Again, he was there for 18 seasons, and we'll just have to see, Adam, where he goes. Did you see his agent, by the way? So his agent put out the thing that said he's been contacted by 7 teams interested in Harbaugh, but there's only 6 openings. So that means that a team has called him that already has a head coach right now that hasn't been fired to just maybe get a pulse on the situation. That's insane to me.
I probably think there are going to be other teams that have a coach that maybe
Yeah,
inquire because, again, maybe some others didn't expect it. I did see a lot of people that were surprised by this move.
I
Like
did
I,
too.
I wasn't. You were surprised by it? I
Uh,
was not surprised.
I was I think towards the end I was a little bit surprised, but then again, on the other side, I sat back this morning and I said, well, they didn't come out to say the rumors were false. Like we've been hearing this for a month or at least 3 weeks that maybe he was going to be gone. And sometimes teams just say, that's absolutely not true. But yeah, I read some different reports that maybe even Harbaugh thought that it was going to be okay. And that it just, it was, I think it was closer to a firing than a mutual parting of ways. I'll just say that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I was a little bit surprised. Yeah. I don't know. Just like we said, maintaining a winning culture is hard. So they're betting on whoever comes in here to be able to kind of almost not necessarily pick up where they left off, but pick up the pieces because they do have such a good roster or good enough roster that obviously needs tweaks because they need to make it past that AFC game. But they do have enough. And with Lamar Jackson, I think it's also making sure that he's happy because, like I said, they need to get some kind of contract extension done with the cap hit that he has this offseason. I believe I said around 74 million with that. And I think he was unhappy too. Like, I think once you have a star quarterback that's, beginning to sit out Wednesday practices, not doing the voluntary spring practices, that you want to do what you can to make him happy as well.
Yeah, I think there comes a time when someone's been around a long time and you don't get to that next level and you go, you know what? We made a nice run. We had some good seasons. We
Yeah.
just have not been able to get to that next rung on the ladder. So it's time to make a change. And that's what I'm assuming the Ravens organization discussed and felt. And I kind of got that feeling over the last few weeks, even through the year, that they could head in that direction. I mean, think about it. If it was Pittsburgh who lost, maybe
Mm-hmm.
we're talking like this with Mike Tomlin.
I think do you not think that that's still on the table? I think if they lose this week, that it's definitely still there
It's still,
because
yeah.
it'll be the same
Hmm.
thing. We always see them get here. And my thought on that whole thing with Tomlin is that he's an excellent head coach. Like I think he helps this team overperform year in and year out. And I think that's something on your resume that a lot of people would want. But it just feels like this team again, unless Aaron Rodgers does something crazy, that this team again is not necessarily built for the playoffs. They do get DK Metcalf back. So I mean crazier things have happened, but I still think that's on the table between the Steelers and Tomlin. That maybe it's another we've mutually agreed to part ways situation in a couple days if they lose a couple days after that loss.
Yeah, I would not be surprised by that either. Another similar situation that they haven't won a playoff game in a while. I do agree, though, that they have not had the talent. I think he
Yeah,
gets that team to overachieve because every year I look
for
and I'm
sure.
like, how did they win 9 games? How did they win 10 games? How are they here? So I don't think he's had the best talent on the roster. And, they somehow managed to get into the playoffs. I know they haven't won, but I don't think they've
Yeah.
had teams that should win.
And it's hard to believe for me that if you're looking at Tomlin and saying, okay, he's not getting us, far enough in the playoffs, but you look at the rosters that he's dealt with, you're telling me another coach can come in there and make it happen? I don't know. I just think Tomlin's too good, but that's, they want results. And it's another thing with these teams where some coaches do get a long time and others don't. I will say too, because I was reading on ESPN, it was Graziano put out, who he's hearing that the Ravens could possibly want to replace Harbaugh. Not necessarily. Cliff Kingsbury's in this article, Adam. Cliff Kingsbury. What? And no offense to Cliff. This is no shots to Cliff Kingsbury, but that was because he was let go on Tuesday, yesterday, from the Washington Commanders as their offensive coordinator. Could you imagine?
Yeah, I
I don't
don't
know.
think
I don't
I
think
don't think
that's the
I
way
don't
you
think
want.
that's the answer.
I don't think that's the way you want to go. And again, you said it a little bit earlier. I think this has a ripple down effect where we might see another coach fired this week or, in the next couple of days that maybe we weren't expecting because they just want to try and get Harbaugh. I think that's how much pull. And people might listen to that and say, well, yeah, he wasn't good enough for the Ravens. Why would someone try and do that? I just think we don't usually see coaches of that caliber on the market. And so maybe that's something. And we heard that from his agent that 7 teams have called. And there's only technically 6 openings for a head coaching job right now.
Yeah, and
It's
that was
crazy.
just like immediately after the news.
Yes.
So now we've had more time where other teams might inquire.
It's nuts. And I don't think any other team in the playoffs right now besides the Steelers could be ones I that go a different direction with their head coach. I think Houston's locked in, Jacksonville obviously. So it's really just the Steelers with teams in the playoffs right now. Panthers are fine with Dave Canales there. Yeah. So it's really just them. But now we've got the Ravens with a head coach opening. We've got the Arizona Cardinals, Las Vegas Raiders, Cleveland Browns, Atlanta Falcons, and then the in-season firings, New York Giants, and the Tennessee Titans. So there's a lot there.
Yeah, there is, and not exactly ideal candidates either.
No, it's not. But what are you gonna do? I think Stefanski's good too, right? Stefanski's gonna be
Yeah,
good.
I think he can do a good job in the right spot.
Maybe Raheem Morris gets another job. I actually think that team is not in a horrible place either. The Atlanta Falcons, at least with the pieces around them. Again, I know we just talked about it. It's really all about the quarterback, and I get
Yeah,
that. But
but
you
there's
have
other
good pieces there.
but figuring out the quarterback is always the critical determination
For
on
sure.
where the team's going to go. So yeah, they do have some other pieces, obviously, right? With Bijan and Drake London. So you got top running back, top receiver. You have some pieces on defense that they drafted this past year. But yeah, the quarterback is obviously going to be critical.
Do you think the firing of Gannon in Arizona just means that they're going to keep Kyler Murray? Or do you think
Uh,
that's a big one where because a new head coach could come in and say, I can work with this. Like, I know, don't give me that look. I think that maybe it could happen where you just say, let's try and figure it out. Or do you think it's a new clean slate and that's what it means with Jonathan Gannon and Kyler Murray?
I guess it's a possibility because he's owed so much money, and they
Yeah.
say, "Hey, can you, if you come in here, can you try and make it work with Kyle?" And they go, "Yeah, I think I could do that." So I guess it's a possibility.
That's another one of the big pieces.
It's
We're
a
gonna have a
tough
lot of them.
division too
I
with
know, I
the other
know.
teams that are there.
They've just gotten better. Um, yeah, so you're gonna see a lot of names going around in this period with head coaches, but they've wanted to go with they've interviewed, I guess I should say, Clint Kubiak. Clint Kubiak, I've seen his name everywhere for this. Robert Sala, Vance Joseph for the Broncos, their defensive coordinator, Anthony Weaver, Thomas Brown, and then Chiefs offensive coordinator Matt Nagy. So again, a lot of moving pieces here, but we know one coaching opening is open for the Ravens, and John Harbaugh is probably going to be the guy that we see moving around a lot this offseason to see where he ends up landing after 18 seasons with the Ravens. They did go ahead and fire him, so we'll see what the next steps are for that team. We're going to see what the next steps are for 2026 as well. I've got more key questions that are going to shape 2026 drafts, and then we are going to continue going through the playoff fantasy rankings. So if you are thinking about jumping into any playoff contests or anything like that, we've got new rankings updated at fantasylife.com. Want to walk through some of those. We're going to do all of that, though, here coming up next. This is Fantasy Life right here. Kendall, Valenzuela, Adam Ronis with you, breaking down everything you need to know for the playoffs coming up here in just a couple of days. I wish it was today, Adam, but we get college football tomorrow and Friday, and then we will be in luck with games on Saturday as well. So we're breaking those games down. Like I said, right after this, we're going to be doing all the rankings, start going through predictions, and just turning the page to a new week and the first week of the playoffs in the NFL. But first, we have to still keep talking about some of these big fantasy questions, ones that I've seen come in at K Valenzuela 17, at Adam Ronis over there on X. So before we get into some more of that playoff talk here, I think another big question, Adam, and one that I saw actually come in yesterday is about 2026 drafts with Patrick Mahomes and our expectations. I think this is more of a wait and see situation. Like if you're drafting early, obviously you're just going to have to, you're just going to have to wait and see when Patrick Mahomes will actually return. But he did tear his ACL, LCL in his left knee, and the recovery process expected to take around 9 months. But that does have huge ramifications when we talk about drafting Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy. It feels like Travis Kelce might not be coming back, but if he does, we still have to have the Travis Kelce conversation. But again, it'll be big questions for someone that, in the middle of the season this year was putting up really good fantasy numbers. I mean, we were talking about him as fantasy MVP, and then it kind of just all came crashing down. But probably one of the bigger questions about when he can return and if he's going to be good for week one more than anything else.
Yeah, and that's something we just don't know right now.
Yeah.
I know he said he wants to be back by week one. I mean, it's Mahomes. I'm sure he's putting in a ton of work and attacking that rehab vigorously. So I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, I mean, I don't. We know players have setbacks, right? We've seen it many times. So I think you just need to wait this one out. I mean, if you are drafting now, I'd probably pass on him at this point.
But it's probably just Rashi Rice too that we're really looking at as the receiver to get there. I mean, Xavier Worthy, that was the fall down from what we had at the beginning of the year when he was he was obviously the focal point because they didn't have anyone else. You had Rashi Rice serving that suspension, and so when Xavier Worthy was out there, it was all right. But man, what a quiet season he had this year. I can't even point to necessarily a big game besides the one in Baltimore week 4. That was kind of it.
Yeah, and you wonder too how much that injury in week 1 impacted him when Travis
Yeah.
Kelce took him out. Remember that?
Mm-hmm. Oh
And
yeah.
then
How could I forget? My teams were screaming.
yeah, so that wasn't good. But yeah, I also think too, he's just not that complete receiver. I think we saw that.
Yeah.
There were opportunities for him to kind of step up and become that guy, and it just never happened. So I think this is what he is. He's kind of more that deep threat, and that's really it. So yeah, I think you're going to see him fall significantly because he was rising up draft boards because with
yeah.
Rice suspended the first 6 games, people felt, okay, he's going to be the guy. He's going to take control here. And it just never happened because, like you mentioned, we really did not see many big games at all from him. And then even towards the end of the season when there was less pressure on him with Rice getting most of the attention and Kelce to a certain extent, it just didn't happen. I mean, he had 1 receiving touchdown this year.
That's horrible.
1. How is that possible?
I don't know. And it was week 6 against Detroit. And then we never saw him again. I know it was bad. And it's kind of crazy the turn with the Chiefs. And again, I still think, Adam, that this is one of those teams, and Reed is one of those coaches that you never count them out. And I'm going to have probably that same mentality in 2026 when they start that season, because if any team it feels like could bounce back from this, it's them. Obviously, the dynasty conversations are done because, when you don't repeat, when you don't make it to the playoffs, when you have a season like you did this year, you just can't keep them in that same conversation. But I do believe that, again, Patrick Mahomes is going to be tough. You're not going to be drafting him early, but it's really Rashi Rice that you're going to be looking at and his price tag and just see where he's at. Again, maybe Kelce comes back, but I don't know. I'm on the side that he retires eventually. Not now, but eventually.
I think he should at this point. What is the point of coming back?
Trying to run it back. That's the only point that I saw for this year, too, was trying to get back to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And ride off into the sunset. You know what I mean?
Yeah. At this point, you're older, don't risk further injury, live life comfortably. I just think that he should just retire.
What did he finish as in tight end scoring? Fantasy
in points per game? I think it was 10. I'll double check because he was up there, and then obviously he fell off to end the season.
Yeah. Total points, he's 3.
Yeah, again, the total points thing is so misleading to me. I see 5 in total points. PPR?
Yes.
Yeah, I see 5th in total points.
NFL.
I see Ferguson, but it's very close. Ferguson 188.9, Fannin 187.1. But again, some scoring systems penalize for fumbles lost, others don't. So there's these little things. But Kelce, I'm seeing here points per game at PPR 10th.
Okay.
See, and then people will be like, "Oh, he wasn't a bad draft pick." Yeah, he was. Like, come on, what did he do for you? See, this is what I can't stand. So here's one that is completely shocking to you that I saw yesterday or 2 days ago. I was looking because I couldn't believe this. Zay Flowers was 12th in total points of receiver.
What?
12th? Yes.
No way.
In PPR, right? Doesn't feel that way at all.
If you would have quizzed me on that, I would have gotten it completely wrong.
I would have gotten it wrong too because Flowers doesn't score touchdowns. So in points per game, he's 18th. And I think to me that shows how bad the receiver position was this year because Flowers had now again, that's through 17 weeks. Sometimes people most count the 17 weeks, right?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, because he scored 2 touchdowns in week 18. So he had 5 total for the season receiving. He had a rushing one as well. But if you take away week 18, he had 3 touchdowns for the season. And that was my whole point before the year when I'm saying I don't see Zay Flowers breaking out because I don't see him scoring 7, 8 touchdowns. You're going to need those touchdowns in order to have that breakout season. So when people look at the total points for the season with Zay Flowers, they're like, oh, he had a great year. I don't think it was a great year. Go look at his games. It was always around 11, 12 points. Again, that's fine if you're looking for a high floor every week, but he didn't take a step up. But because we had so many receivers either get hurt or have down years, when you look at where he finished, it seems like it was great. But I don't think it was.
No.
I think it was fine. But if you were expecting him to have that third year breakout, it did not happen.
No, and I remember talking with Dwayne McFarland about that, about breaking down just what would need to happen for him to be able to do that. But I mean, look at the touchdowns. Going into week 14, he only had one.
Yeah, exactly.
On the year.
And then if you're going to include the week 18 stats, it makes it look even better. But I think if you ask anyone who had Zay Flowers, they're like, yeah, it was okay. Nothing great. He had and it really was a strong finish to this season. So he had 20.4 in week 14, 15.8 in week 15, 23.2 in week 16, and 13 in week 17. So he had 3 games of 20 points or more. And that accounted for, he had 27.3 in week 1, 20.4 week 14, 23.2 week 16, and then a big week 18. So like 4 games accounted for most of his production this year.
And the other thing with Zay Flowers that we always talked about too was just their commitment to the run game. You don't have Derrick Henry over there for a reason. So because I remember Dwayne writing this up at fantasylife.com because he would say in this alternate universe coming out of 2024 that Flowers could have made a wide receiver 1 jump similar to Amon-Ra St. Brown based on the underlying data, because it was somewhat there, the targets, the air yards, the yards per route run, but you still just looked at a guy coming into the season that had wide receiver 3 finishes in back-to-back seasons, 12.8 and 12.3 points per game. That's what we got, and it felt the same.
Yeah, and he was a little bit better than that this year, 13.47. So it's basically, he did what he usually does. He saw a slight uptick in receptions. He had 86 receptions this year through 17 games. The targets were 2 more than last year. The yards went up a little bit, and that's because he had 12 more receptions. You know, the yards per reception were basically the same, 14.3 last year, 14.1 this year, and 5 touchdowns, tied a career high, which he had 5 in his rookie year. The stats are just similar. Like, I just don't see a big jump because, as you mentioned, they like to run in the red zone, but when they do pass in the red zone, it's to the tight ends. Zay Flowers is not this big wide receiver. He's 5'9", 185. So you're not looking at him in the red zone. So my point was before the year, if he's going to have that breakout, he's got to get 7, 8, 9 touchdowns, and that has to be from long receptions because he's not going to get those targets inside the 10. He's not that type of receiver.
And this was year 3, right? So
we're going this was year 3.
4. So you always leave a light on, I guess, for players
I hope he goes early because I will not take him. So if people are going to look at this and say, wow, he really had, look based on his finish. If they look at the total points, and again, look at the total points because I think it's very misleading. Go ahead, because they're like, wow, he finished 12th in total points.
Send it to your league mates. Be like, look at this. Wow, Zay Flowers. Just start planting the seeds now. Just be like, wow, look at Zay Flowers. His prices almost always remain the same, though, if I'm not mistaken. He wasn't necessarily been expensive, but he is in that range where you say, I'd rather go a different direction, especially a receiver.
So this year he wasn't expensive. I think he was like 5th, 6th round. So I think if you took him this year, he would obviously you're happy with the return. Again, it's the path to get there, though. Because there was a week I'm seeing here, so he had 3.3, 2.
Yeah.
And then again, he had a lot of the big games late in the season. But to me, there's nothing that suggests that we're going to see another level in him. I think this is who he is.
Yeah, it feels like that with a lot of these players, and that's why we write them up, right? I'm looking through this article now, and some of the names on here were just obviously write-ups that we said, hey, could they take this jump? But some of the names, it was Jordan Addison for the Vikings. This was year 3. It was Jaden Reed for the Packers, who unfortunately got hurt, or else maybe we would have been talking differently.
You think so?
Was on this.
No, it's the Packers. Not. Come on, it's the same thing.
I think I think it would have been different a little bit that he would have had a better year after Tucker Kraft went down if he was healthy, because
And
I think
before
he would have.
Watson came back.
Yes, and before Watson came back, I think he would have shown flashes. But again, I think they would have probably moved on or moved away from just focusing solely on him because that's what they do. So Jaden
But
Reed
he
was
wasn't priced high though. Like none of like the
no, no,
Packers
not at all.
receivers were all like wide receiver 40 or
He
later.
was, yeah, I'm looking here. He was round 10
Yeah,
consensus ADP, 46 wide
because
receiver 46.
we've seen that, and I guess maybe some people felt Matthew Golden would come in and maybe get more
Me,
targets.
that was me. Hand up.
I mean,
Horrible.
look, they finally drafted a receiver in round 1, and now the Packers are like, see, this is why we don't do it.
It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. But yeah, Jaden Reed was on this. I mean, Roma Dunze, it was the same thing, except he started strong. Oh my gosh. I thought I got a steal because that was round 7 ADP. He was wide receiver 37.
Round
Yeah,
7?
that's what I see consensus
Oh,
ADP.
I
These
remember
are the
taking
early
him
articles.
round 6.
I think he jumped up. But if you were drafting early, he was there
Yeah,
and
maybe
he
earlier, yeah.
started. Oh my gosh. And he started well. And then injuries and whatever else. I still think he could have good years. But he started with 15, 31, 15, 16 fantasy points. And then after that, we didn't hear from him. 2 games above 18 fantasy points, the rest below 8.
Trust me, I know. I had him on a couple
Woof.
leagues. It was painful. I know part of it, they said he was playing through the stress fracture. Also,
Mhm.
like Caleb was just off with him. I mean, Caleb has been inconsistent with his accuracy this year. As good as
Yeah.
he's had a good season, he's taken less sacks. He doesn't turn the ball over, but there are definitely accuracy issues, and we saw it a lot with Romo Dunze.
Well, let's see what this team can do in the playoffs. How's that? I want to go through playoff fantasy rankings and where some of these guys are going, especially if you're doing some of the contests. If you're drafting this week, you definitely want to be locked in at fantasylife.com, and we'll start going through some of our predictions for this weekend as well. We're doing that here coming up next. This is a good song, by the way, Adam. You know this one?
I've heard it, yeah.
No? Oh, it's a good song. It's a good song. And that means the vibes are immaculate right now, which is totally true because we're getting ready to break down the playoffs. And we've started by talking through some of the Guilloteenie drafts that you guys can do over at guillotineleagues.com. But I wanted to start going through just some of the playoff fantasy football rankings and just kind of diving in, Adam, too. A lot of people are playing contests right now. They're getting back in the draft room, which is super fun. But it's also a good idea to kind of start going through just some of our thoughts, how you want to be looking at the playoffs, how you want to be constructing rosters right now if you are doing that. Because I think, to me, Adam, when I'm looking, especially at contests like we're doing the one at RT Sports, the Fantasy Life postseason shootout. I think it's a good idea, at least for me. This is how I like to do it: is to start with the Super Bowl and work your way backwards when we're doing some of these drafts. Very different than what we've been talking about with guillotines, but creating multiple versions of what you think reality could be in the next 4 weeks. And I think that helps you develop unique lineups. I think that helps you avoid, like, just making mistakes, everything like that. But kind of knowing where you want to go in your draft, especially when you're in the draft room, figuring out how you think this story is going to progress throughout the playoffs and the postseason. That's a big part there because you have to be able to tell a cohesive story with your team. If you get 2 players on different teams that are facing off against each other this week, it just doesn't feel right. So you want to make sure that you can avoid just some of those mistakes early on and get your teams in the best spots.
Yeah, there's so many different playoff contests, different rules. So you have to first understand what are the rules, what's the format. And then, yeah, you're basically filling out your bracket. And everyone is saying this year it's more wide open than ever. It does feel that way because I think you're looking at a few first round matchups and you're like, well, this could determine whether my playoff
Yeah.
predictions are going to be accurate or does it fall apart. So yeah, you got to fill out the bracket and then come up with your Super Bowl teams. And I do think it's very challenging this year because I could see it go in a multitude of directions. But when you do these playoff contests, you have to have conviction. You have to understand too, you could be wrong and it could fall apart really quickly. Like you're going to see a lot of teams just be done after the first weekend. That's just the nature though of the fantasy football playoffs. So just have conviction in your picks. Obviously, you can do multiple leagues as well, and each one could be different. Maybe one you have a Rams Patriots Super Bowl, another one you have a Seahawks Jacksonville
Yeah.
Super Bowl.
Woo.
So yeah, there's different directions. It does feel this year more than ever, and you can see it reflected in the lines this weekend. We have a lot of lines, 3.5 points or fewer. We just don't have many dominant favorites outside of the Rams against the Panthers. So, yeah, this is a year I think you do want to do multiple entries. I don't think this
For
is
sure.
one where you want to have one. You want to have a few and, have a few different Super Bowl teams, and at least it'll make it fun when you're watching the game. So, this again, fantasy football is not over. You can still win money or have fun, trash talk with your friends, but there's different ways to go about it. But that's the key: is have your Super Bowl teams and then go from there.
Yeah, and it's you said it. I'm going to make sure I'm in multiple drafts and guillotines this year just because we could be wrong right off the bat. At some point we know that there's going to be an upset. I don't know if it's this weekend, Adam, but Pittsburgh and Houston could be one. Maybe the Panthers pull it off, but there's always one to start that just totally sends a ripple down effect down the NFL and down through teams that you've drafted. So it always happens. And when I'm looking at drafts, I think no matter what, when you're in the draft room, it's Puka Nacua at the one spot, right? It has to be. I think Puka Nacua, we were in a Guilloteenie draft last night or yesterday afternoon, and he was the first one. You had the 101, I had the 102. I think it's Puka Nacua, and then I really do think it's CMC when we're talking about guillotines. But I understand if people, want to go a different direction, but I think Puka Nacua is the top guy there that you want to get across when we look at any of our playoff rankings.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I do see the Rams have a legitimate chance to go to the Super Bowl. So if that's the case, that means he's playing 4 games. And I think most people believe the Rams are going to win this week. So you have this week for sure against the Panthers where you could put up big numbers. Then you're guaranteed a game in week 2 where you could put up big numbers. And, to get him for even at least 2 weeks of guillotines is massive. So, yeah, that's the way I was looking at it when I took Puka number 1.
I think CMC is going to be interesting in different contests. I think it's different for a lot of people because I think in our rankings, he is down just a little bit. We're talking about different playoff contests now, but if you don't believe that the 49ers can make it through this first week, I mean, you could have CMC and that could help you for one. But if you believe that they're going to lose to Philadelphia, it's really tough to continue on. And so CMC, when we look at some of our projections and everything, they have the third longest Super Bowl odds. I think it's last time I looked was plus 3,000. And they've got the worst EPA per game defense in the playoffs. They are 3.5 point underdogs. Again, that line is similar to a lot of games this weekend, but yeah, I could see if people didn't want CMC and they wanted to take it further and they didn't believe in this 49ers team, that maybe they would go with like Kyron Williams instead, or James Cook even in that matter when we're talking about, different playoff formats.
That's what makes it so challenging because most times you would expect McCaffrey to be very appealing. But if you feel like they're not going to win this week, then yeah, it's tough. Now, Guillotini is different, right? Because
Yeah,
you hope that he gives you a big game this week, and if he does get eliminated, you can replace him. But if you're doing a draft and you feel they're not going to win this week, then you can not take them too, because what's the point if you're getting one game? I mean, getting the volume is extremely important. You want as many players that are going to play 4 games or 3. And if you feel San
exactly.
Francisco is going to get eliminated this week, then yeah, he's not worth a pick that high. You mentioned James Cook. I mean, that's a challenging one too, because what if Buffalo loses this week and they have a tough matchup against Jacksonville, who's good against the run? Now, we know
Mhm.
that's what Buffalo is going to do. They want to run the football. But yeah, that's why you have to have conviction with your picks. And it's a challenge this year because that, to me, that is like the biggest game that's going to determine the path for the AFC is the Buffalo Jacksonville game this weekend.
Yeah, I agree. I think Buffalo can do it. So you'll see. I have an article coming out at fantasylife.com today that you guys can see. I reviewed the draft that I did yesterday, and again, I'll tweet out a couple links here, but we'll do more Guilloteenie drafts because they're just so fun and they're quick as well. So you don't have to spend much time on them. But I don't know about you, Adam. I believe San Francisco is going to lose this weekend, and it could be wrong, but that's how I'm building a lot of these teams. And just like we talk about in regular fantasy football when the season begins, if you're in enough leagues, you just want to make sure that that you differentiate how you're drafting, because that's what keeps you alive longer. I'm gonna believe that San Francisco does not beat the Philadelphia Eagles on the road, but I'm gonna have a couple of teams that also have, CMCs on them, that maybe have a Jawan Jennings, because I want to make sure that I'm like hedging that bet, and making sure that if I'm incorrect, if I'm wrong, I still have a couple teams still alive or that could go a little bit farther. So that's why it's also important when you're constructing those rosters, if you're doing enough of them, to just make sure that you have a few teams that go different directions than what you believe could happen. I want to keep going through some of these names, though. I do want to talk about our expectations with Jackson Smith and Jigba, James Cook as well, and why Matthew Stafford might be the quarterback that you should just wait on the whole time. You got him yesterday late in our drafts, and that might be the best kind of outlook that you could have when you're drafting right now. So we're going to break that down here coming up next. This is Fantasy Life right here on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. Hopefully everyone having a great start to their Wednesday. Oh, what did you eat for lunch yesterday, Adam? Did you go get a pizza? What we do?
I
Soup?
did not. I actually might have to do.
Ooh,
Will I do pizza today?
Pizza?
I usually do pizza once a week. I haven't done pizza yet.
So good. Yeah. I think
do you have good pizza there though?
No.
Yeah. You get.
No. I mean, I probably, if I was willing to drive a little farther, right? But sometimes I'm just not. I just don't want to do it. We have good enough pizza.
Yeah,
It's
but
fine.
not like
Not New York.
not New York, New
Yeah,
Jersey pizza,
no,
right? Nah.
no. Yeah, no. My brother lives in Connecticut too, so I'm just like, oh, he says that's some good pizza over there
I've
too.
heard too. I haven't been there, but I've heard there's a couple good spots in Connecticut
Yeah.
for pizza.
Yeah, so I'm jealous. So send food pics. It's just sometime at some point we're always going to talk about food on this show. Breaking down just the start of the playoffs this weekend. And if you're in any contest, that's what we're breaking down right now, of just where we have some of these players ranked at fantasylife.com. That's where you can go and check it out. I think one of my biggest mistakes, I will say, in the Guilloteenie draft yesterday was I picked Jalen Hurts ahead of Matthew Stafford. And you actually ended up with Stafford. I think you picked him right after me, or, the round after, something like that. I think Matthew Stafford, if you're in some of these contests, he should be a lot of people's QB1. Because if you're looking at these contests and you're looking at expectations for teams to go far enough, I know that a lot of people are going to want Josh Allen. And I think in Guilloteenie format specifically, that could be a good play. If we're just talking, you need points, you just need to get through week one. But if you're doing, playoff long contests that isn't like Guillotine leagues where you don't get to go pick up free agents of teams that were chopped, I'm looking at him, and they've got the second best Super Bowl odds, and they have the potential to play 4 games. And because of that, I'm just looking at him, the points per game he gave us in fantasy throughout the regular season. I think there's potential here for Matthew Stafford to not only be going late, but for people to really take advantage of that and be taking him in some of these contests.
Yeah, and again, it really comes down to what you project the Rams to do. And if you think they're going to go to the Super Bowl, then absolutely he should be higher. So I was happy to land them. I was actually surprised. I did a different format where I did take them earlier, but that was also one where you could have 2 quarterbacks. Obviously, in this format, you just have the Guillotine. There's no bench. This is your lineup, so it's 1 quarterback. I also look at it too. If you're drafting just 5 teams, then at least for the first round, right, there's plenty of good quarterbacks.
Oh, for sure. That's
why I
was wait.
Yeah, that's why I was willing to wait, and I was just glad that kind of Stafford fell in my lap because I do have them going far. So I was able to get 3 Rams in this draft. So obviously, I'm hoping now that they go far.
Could be. I'll text you so quickly if they lose to the Panthers this week, and I'll be like, "Oh no, your draft. What happened?"
It's okay. Then I'll be like, "Well, I got a few others, so whatever." But
you know
yeah,
who I'm going. I love that drop. You know who I was going back to though? Saquon Barkley. To be totally honest with you, and that could be totally wrong because I do think. Again, I've said it on the other side. I do think the Eagles win this game, and we've seen them turn it on in the playoffs. But I think Saquon Barkley, for when we look at this team, the offense struggled this season, but I do think they have the weapons to be able to challenge defenses, especially that 49ers one to start. I mean, they've got the 4th best odds to win the Super Bowl, but I think in the playoffs, we see the Eagles kind of unload Barkley, and this could be one where I did go back in a second draft that I did, and I made sure to take him.
Yeah, the Eagles are the one team that concerns me that no one is really saying is going to make it to the Super Bowl, and I would not be surprised if they do. I know they've had a lot of problems this year, and it doesn't look picturesque at times, but they have a really good defense. And they have players that have been there before. I mean, they won the Super Bowl last year. I know it's tough to win it 2 years in a row, but it would not be surprising to me if they did make a run and reach the Super Bowl. Do I want to see it? Absolutely not. Clearly, I do not like the Eagles. That's the one
For
team I don't
personal
want to see
reasons,
win.
everyone.
But objectively, I do think they have the ability to make a run. I am. I'm not
He
going
is
to
a
lie.
hater. We know that for sure. Yeah, I want to keep breaking down these games, start giving our predictions as well. But first, you know what time it is. It's time to go through that fantasy life water cooler. We're going through the news and notes, some of the firings that we've seen over the past couple of days. We're breaking it down at the water cooler next. This is Fantasy Life right here, and we are in the water cooler. So that means we're going through all the news and notes that you might have missed over the past 24 hours. And of course, you can always stay up to date on all the news at fantasylife.com. Go ahead and head over there right now. Go subscribe to our newsletter in your inbox 7 days a week and check out all the great articles we have coming out for the playoffs. I mean, there is something for everyone. If you're playing in Guillotenies, we have so many articles to, if it's your first time, explain what they are. We also have just strategies, guides that you can look at. Our Guilloteenie rankings are there as well. I've got an article coming out later today reviewing the draft that we did yesterday. We need to, I'll make sure to, I've seen a couple messages on this, but I'll make sure to create another league. I'll tweet it out today so you guys can join us and do a few more drafts. But everything you need for the playoffs is right there. We've been talking through some of our rankings just overall for the playoffs. Those are live. Our projections as well from the one and only Dwayne McFarland. So make sure you go to fantasylife.com because it just makes it way more fun when you're looking at these playoff games. When you have a little something on the side going on, you have to figure it out and make sure you've got the best teams possible. We can do that at fantasylife.com. Guillotineleagues.com also is where you can go and sign up for those guillotinies. But it's just a really good time of year, Adam. I know we're done with fantasy football, which is always the worst. We're coming to a close with the 2025 2026 playoff season. But getting into those contests does make it a lot more fun, especially if you have no teams. No offense,
Exactly. Hey, taking a shot at me because I haven't seen
I'm
my team in
sorry.
the playoffs. I get it. But yes, like people like myself who are Dallas Cowboys fans and we have nothing to look forward to in the postseason. Yes, I'm a big sports fan, so I'm going to watch all these football games regardless.
Yeah.
But we have to be honest. When you have something on the line, whether it's fantasy football playoffs or a bet, it just makes it more fun to watch. You cannot tell me otherwise. Like for real. Like if you
for
didn't,
sure.
if it's like okay, Steelers Texans. All right, I'm gonna watch that game. More than likely, it's gonna be low scoring. It's way more fun if you have Nico Collins on a postseason roster or Woody Marks or a bet on it. It just makes the game more interesting, and you're just paying attention more, and you're sweating more. So yeah, do the postseason contest. Again, there's a lot of different formats. There's varieties, and it's a lot of fun. It just gives you
It is.
another full month of action too. Unless you're Kendall and you get chopped in week 1.
Okay, we don't have to go there. I'm not chopped. And I'm not going to be chopped in the first round. I'm going to make it through. And you're going to be looking at my JSN team and saying, wow, I wish I did that. He's probably, though, I will say, I was thinking about this. That's probably the only player that I'm taking from any team with a first round bye. From the two, there's only two. So it's the Denver Broncos and it's the Seattle Seahawks. But people aren't rushing to go and draft. Like, I would not spend a pick on Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet. I wouldn't do it. Honestly, I wouldn't do it for Cortland Sutton. I've seen some people go for RJ Harvey, Adam, but I don't even think I would do that because it's not like RJ Harvey has been just having these insane games, big runs, putting up a ton of fantasy points. Like JSN is the only person I would be spending anything on right now, especially in the Guilloteenie formats, because again, you're taking a 0 for the first week, because I think you have to look at the upside for the rest of the playoffs. But anyone else, I'm not doing that, right? For anyone in Denver or Seattle other than
Yeah,
him.
and again, just specifically, these are Guilloteenie leagues where you don't have a bench and the lowest scoring team gets chopped each week. So you never want to take a 0 in guillotine leagues. We talk about it all season long. Honestly, I wouldn't do it for JSN either. That was the only player that was taken from Seattle or Denver. It's just you put yourself at big risk. I understand you're looking forward to the next week, but if you have another player this week that gets injured like early, you're in trouble.
Oh,
Like
for sure.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
no, I'm
that's the
sweating it already.
yeah. So I understand why people want to do it with Jason because it's like, well, if I somehow get past the week, I don't have to go spend a lot of fab on him. He's on my roster. But you got to get past that first week. And when you only have 8 starting spots and you're already taking a 0 to start with, that is so risky. Like you said, if you do survive the week and you're not the lowest scoring team, then you're in good shape. It means you probably had some players that advanced, and now you add JSN to the mix while the other teams are going to be going to spend money on the other Denver and Seattle players. But I just cannot take a 0 when we only have 8 spots. So we'll see how that works out for you.
I can. Yeah. And if it doesn't work out, we're just gonna move on and we're not
Well,
gonna
then,
talk
yeah,
about
you
it.
move on to your other Guilloteenie leagues
My
that
other
you
one.
drafted. You're like,
That's
well, okay,
what
this
I
one didn't
will
work out.
say. That's why
Okay,
I
so
say it's so important.
if you do another one today and JSN is still available, are you going to take him again?
Oh, I did one right after ours yesterday and I did not take him. I let
Okay.
him go. I saw
Where did
one.
he
I
go
was
in
in
that
another
one?
So that one he went in the 6th round, and I think the price
Okay.
could be right there. I also think it depends on how far people are letting him fall. If it's my last pick and he's my last, let's say, flex spot, because so the format is 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, 2 flex. And so the 2 flex are really important here, because you know you want to have as good of an option as you can in those spots. And so I think it also depends on the price. I saw one where he went in the 2nd round.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
not paying that.
insane.
I think what did I do? The 5th round for our draft?
4th.
4th. See, even that's a little expensive, but I was
Yeah.
trying to make a point, Adam. And I was trying to show that I love the Seahawks and I am so okay with drafting JSN. Also, I think it depends on who you get in your first 3 picks. I got CMC James Cook. In my mind, I think that those 2 are going to really have big performances. And so, again, you kind of have to hedge your bets right away. You have to make your bet, I should say, right away on teams that you like and players that you like. Guillotini's a little bit different because, again, you just want to make it's survive in advance. You want to make it past that first week, and if you do, then you can go and bid on players that were chopped from the team that was chopped the first week. But I did look at that and I said to myself, I think that for San Francisco, in order for them to win, they're going to have to rely heavily on CMC. I again don't think they're going to win that game, but in this format, I'm okay with it because I'll just need them for 1 week to get through. And I think the same thing with Buffalo against Jacksonville. They've got a really good run defense, but we have not seen anything from their wide receivers. And I think it's going to be Josh Allen on the ground and James Cook on the ground as well. That helps them try to advance. I think I'm going to pick Buffalo to win that game. I'm going to be totally honest with you, but I could be wrong. And that's why it's important to do multiple of these if you want to, and if you can, because I'm also going to have another team where I already did it. I don't have JSN on one team because I just didn't want him. And I went kind of a different direction. I took a lot of Eagles players and I took Jacoby Myers from the Jacksonville Jaguars. So that's what makes it fun though.
Jacksonville has allowed the 3rd fewest fantasy points to running backs this year. But I will say this, looking at the list of running backs, it's not that impressive. Now they faced Jonathan Taylor twice. He had 21-74 and a touchdown, 21-70 and a touchdown. So he needed volume, and I'm pretty sure we're going to see that from Cook. I think Cook too is just so dynamic; he can break a long play. But you looking at, they faced the Tennessee running backs twice, Denver, the Jets, Arizona has no run game. The Chargers with no Hampton, it was Vidal. Houston doesn't have a strong running game. Vegas with Genti, we know he's good, but the offensive line stinks. They faced the Rams. They did hold Kyron Williams 12 for 54 and Corum 12 for 37. They held the Seahawks in check, 12 for 24 for Charbonnet, 10 for 34 for Kenneth Walker. McCaffrey, 17 for 49. So they have done a really good job this year, but sometimes you have to also look at it from the other side and go, you know what? James Cook is a really tough matchup for this Jacksonville run defense as well. But I do look, here's the thing. When you're taking that 0 and you're going to say, well, the last round pick, it doesn't matter. Even if you get 3.4 points from one player, that could be the difference between you getting chopped.
Huge difference.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's why I can't take the 0.
Listen,
I can't.
I could be totally wrong on this. This
I
is
hope
just
you
something that
are.
I want to try. Hey, whoa. Watch it.
Well, because we're
But
competing against each
no,
other.
I
That's
know.
why.
I know. And that's the thing. Like, that's why I think it's important. Again, I've already said this to play in multiple because I'm going to have more of my teams than not. This is probably going to be my only one that I have JSN. You know, you have to do it for the content, Adam. Hashtag
Yeah.
content. But I do like it and I do want to see how it works. You know what I mean? It's just you have to give it a try. And these guillotine leagues you can play in, you can play for money, and a lot of these are free though. So the ones that we're doing are free. A team that I just did not take I've done I think 3 or 4 now. I do not find myself gravitating towards any Chargers at all. And again, this could this not be an upset? It would be crazy. But the Chargers traveling over to New England, I think New England wins this game. I haven't taken Omarion Hampton. I haven't taken Lad McConkey. Oronde Gadsden's an option at the tight end position, but I just haven't taken anyone. And I don't know. Well, I will because we're going to play in a lot of these formats, but it's really hard for me to press draft with some of those players.
Would you take a Chargers player or a Panthers player first?
You know what? I've drafted Tedero McMillan, so I have to say Panthers.
Wow. Okay.
I know. I know.
Look, can the Chargers win? Yeah, I don't have them winning, but they can. Obviously, the offensive line is the biggest concern. Protecting Herbert, can they run the football? But it is a tough spot in New England. I think New England's really good. I know people are knocking them for their schedule. I think they're the legit.
I think they are too.
Yeah.
Despite me wearing a Chargers shirt today.
Well, I think you're doing that intentionally.
Producer Tim is
I think
just like, what the heck?
You did that to troll Tim. You told me yesterday. Yeah, she messaged me. She said, "Do you have any Chargers paraphernalia?" I said, "I actually don't. I don't dislike them." She's like, "Well, I'm wearing a Chargers shirt to piss off Tim. So if you have anything, bring it on the show." I said, "Okay, I'll look," and I didn't find anything.
Shout out to Homage. I said, well, you know what? And I don't even have a Patriots shirt. I've got a Jordan Love shirt. So maybe I'll wear that tomorrow. But probably not because I'm really going to stay away from anyone in the NFC. But yeah. So again, guillotineleagues.com. That's where you can go to sign up for some of those guillotines. I'll tweet a link after this show. And we'll do another draft here today. And they're just really fun and they're quick. Like we said, there's no bench spots. It's eight rounds, right? 2, 4,
8 rounds.
6, 8. Yeah. 8 rounds and it goes very quickly. You can only have in the single chop format, there's only 5 teams. So again, it goes by quickly. If you have the time today, join a couple or join ours and we'll make sure to get that done here. Just a couple of the news and notes that we hit earlier, but Harbaugh being fired from the Ravens, that's going to be the big news, not only for today, but probably the rest of the offseason. Seeing where he goes, it was 18 seasons as their head coach. He did a lot of good things for that team, but understandably, I think they felt that they kind of hit a wall a little bit and they wanted to go in a new direction. He was hired in 2008, which is crazy. This organization has only had 3 head coaches in their 30-year existence. So we're going to keep a pulse on that for the rest of the offseason. But again, Harbaugh is going to be one of those guys that I think we have I think it's just going to have a big effect on the NFL, Adam. We talked about this earlier, but I think we heard that teams are calling that still have their coaches in place. They're asking his agent, Harbaugh's agent, about, where he's at. And so I think that depending on how these next few weeks go, and especially the next couple of days, maybe we see a team part ways with their coach because they just want a piece of Harbaugh. And that could be crazy if that happens.
Yeah, like anytime you get a coach like Harbaugh on the market, other teams are going to be like, "Oh, wow, we have to take this into consideration with the success he's had." And yes, it wore off a little bit in Baltimore and they had a disappointing year, but we've seen this before. You have a coach that has that success, goes to a new team, it could breathe life. I mean, look at Andy Reid. Andy Reid, right? Yeah. He had that run in Philly. All right, time to go. He goes to Kansas City and it does even better. So not saying that's what's going to happen with Harbaugh, but certainly a possibility. He's had a lot of success in the NFL. It just felt like for Baltimore, they decided it was time to go in a different direction.
And this will be a big job for whoever gets it as the new Ravens head coach. Because again, we talked about how you already have an MVP quarterback on your roster. And that's where a lot of problems stem from when these coaches come into new jobs. They have to turn things around, but it starts at the quarterback position. So we'll see if they get a new contract done with Lamar Jackson as well. Again, his cap hit for this offseason is around $74 million. So I think this was the direction that they wanted to move to in order to, make him a little bit happier happier. We heard rumblings that there was, maybe some unhappiness between the two. I don't know how true or not true those are, Adam, but it's something that you just have to take into consideration. So again, Harbaugh is out as the Ravens head coach. A couple of other ones, I haven't really seen anything besides there's going to be a lot of reports, Adam, like Stefanski's expected to speak with the Giants, the Falcons, the Titans. We're going to be getting a lot of those as the week continues on. So we'll keep an eye on those. One of the quotes that I did just want to bring up was from Tua Tagovailoa. Speaking of quarterbacks, is that I just saw this quote from him that he said a fresh start would be dope.
Yeah,
So I just really wanted to bring that up to talk about that with you, because again, this another quarterback with the Dolphins, it looks like they're keeping McDaniel. So he said he was part of the GM hiring process. And if that's the case, then he is staying. And I think we would have heard by now if he wasn't. Stranger things have happened, but it looks like he is going to be back. And I think that's honestly, congratulations to him, because I thought he was going to be one of the first coaches fired this year, based on how they started. People forget they had a players only meeting after week 1. And I thought that meant disaster was coming, but he was kind of able to save it as the season went on without Tyreek Hill. Tua Tagovailoa, though, another big one, because he was benched to end the season, and he said it would be dope if he went if he went somewhere else. So we'll see if he's on the move. That's a lot of money, though. I'll say that the contract is a little tough.
It is, and so is the player. I mean, it's not been good for Tua.
Good.
So I wouldn't expect much from him. But yeah, the Dolphins started 1-6, and yeah, it looked like
crazy what they
it
were
looked
able
like
to
he
do.
was gone, and then they continued to play hard for him, and then they won 5 out of 6, and they were actually for a second back in the playoff mix, and then they lost to Pittsburgh, and any hopes of a dream ended at that point.
And I think, to give credit, and this could just be wrong. I know Dolphins fans might not feel this way, but we talk all the time about organizations not having any patience. And so if this is the way that they're going to go, I think we have to give credit where credit is due, that if they do believe that McDaniel is the guy that can turn this around, that they've seen before. We have seen them in the playoffs. It hasn't been all the time, but they have made it. And I think there's something to, consistency and just at least trying to make it feels like a rebuild. I know they're not going to use that word. We'll have to see what Tyreek Hill's doing. Jalen Waddle, of course, is still there. They still have Devon Achane. That's still a team with good enough pieces. But yeah, the Dolphins, I mean, they could move on from Tua. He's owed $54 million guaranteed in 2026. So if he's released with a post June 1 designation at the start of the new league year, it's $99.2 million cap charge over 2 years, though. That's a lot. But he in those games we saw this season, he wasn't good.
No.
Little over 1,600 yards. It's just, I don't know. It wasn't 67.7% completion percentage. It's not good. I don't know if a team's going to really be asking for him.
I don't see it. I don't see how anyone would.
But crazy things happen, Adam, when people think that they can get a quarterback and make him new. I don't know. It's gonna be an interesting offseason. We'll say that for sure. We're going to continue on. Again, at K Valenzuela 17, at Adam Ronis over there on X. That's where I'll be tweeting some of the links for the Guilloteenie drafts later on today. Want to continue talking through the playoffs. It is about that time. We're turning the page. We'll talk more fantasy here as well, but more playoff power rankings. We've already gone through the Los Angeles Rams, what we expect from the Seahawks, but I want to get into like kind of these middle teams. I want to talk through the Denver Broncos, Jacksonville Jaguars. Of course, for producer Tim, we have to talk through the Patriots as well. We're going to do that here coming up next. This is Fantasy Life right here, breaking down the first week of the playoffs across the NFL. GuillotineLeagues.com is where you can go and sign up for those Guilloteenie drafts. So much fun. We'll be tweeting out a couple others that we're doing today. Should we just not talk about the Patriots all week for Tim, for producer Tim?
They're playing?
What? Are they? I don't even know what time. I don't even know what day. I'm not, funny enough, I do. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people like the Patriots, but this just feels like a game they're destined to win. And I think they could go far enough, right? I mean, Los Angeles traveling over to the East Coast to play New England. And the 2 seed against 7, I think Los Angeles has talent and I think they've performed well with it. But I don't know, Drake May has just had such a fantastic season, was in that MVP conversation. Did he finish? Is he still the favorite for MVP?
No, I
right
think it's
now.
Stafford now.
It's Stafford now. I mean, the idea that he's still there, I think he's one of the most improved players that we've seen from last year to this year, and I think they've got a good formula, which is crazy when you look on paper at them, especially at the wide receivers. You would say to yourself, okay, they can find some success, but probably not that much when Stephon Diggs is your, wide receiver one. You've got other guys, of course, on that team. Hunter Henry, Travion Henderson has obviously emerged. Ramondre Stevenson has as well. So I just don't. I look at this Patriots team, and I'm good with drafting some of these guys because I do in my mind I do have them going pretty far, and so that is definitely a team that I've gotten a couple guys off of.
Yeah, I think they have a good shot to reach the Super Bowl. I
Yeah.
do think they're that good. I know everyone cites the schedule, but May, you look at all of the underlying stats for May, and they've been impressive. And they can run the ball, they can pass the ball, he can throw the ball downfield. We know that the Chargers' offensive line is a big issue, so that's a concern for them. So yeah, I do think the Patriots, they kind of spread the ball around, right? Even with the backs,
Yeah.
with Stevenson and Henderson. Henderson's kind of the more explosive guy, but look, Stevenson, especially towards the end of the year, he finished the season well, and even in the passing game. So I know a lot of us in fantasy, we like the young, explosive running back, but Stevenson still very good.
Oh, for sure.
So yeah, I think that will be a good game. Look, I like the Chargers. I just feel like they just never can put it together to make that run. There's always
Yeah.
something that holds them back, and it looks like it's the offensive line.
And to me, it always feels disappointing too.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of always disappointed in it as well. And I know that they had injuries all throughout the season, but a lot of teams did. And there's going to be one this weekend, Adam. That's an upset. We always get
Yeah.
one, and it's going to happen. And it's just really trying to guess correctly. If you have an idea of what that could be, maybe it's Green Bay going into Chicago and doing that because that's going to be a tough game. What do you
I
think?
do think Green Bay's going to win. I don't know if that's an upset, but I do think
I
Green Bay's
mean,
going to win
when we
that.
talk about seeding, it's technically an upset, right? Are they
Yeah.
favorites in that game?
I think I think it flipped, right? Or is Green
One and
Bay
a half?
still a short favorite?
I don't know. I don't have it. I just know that if we're talking about seeding, the seventh seed going up against a two, that in my mind would be an upset.
Yeah, Packers favored by 1.5, so you can't
Mm.
even call it an upset.
So never mind. Not an upset there. But it's still there's bound to be one this weekend, if not maybe two, and so that's
So
what you
I
have to look at.
All right,
Yeah.
so if you're looking at upsets, the teams that qualify, Carolina obviously, right?
Okay. Yeah.
I
San
don't think you
Francisco.
could say Packers, Bears. I don't think you could say Bills, Jacksonville. It's 1.5. Bills favored on the
Okay.
road.
Uh huh.
49ers are 4.5 point dogs.
That's
If
an
they
upset.
win, I guess. And then
That's
I
an
guess if
upset
the
for sure.
Chargers beat the Patriots, it's an upset.
Steelers, no. Would that be an
Uh,
upset in your mind?
they're 3 point home underdogs.
I think that would be an upset
They're
then.
plus 140 on the money line. I guess so. Yeah, because no
I
one's
would call
picking.
that.
No one's picking Pittsburgh, right? I
No.
think everyone is saying Pittsburgh and Carolina are the two teams they cannot see make a run at the Super Bowl. I think you could make a case for almost every other team. Would that be fair?
I think that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say I'm flirting with the idea of taking Pittsburgh this weekend though.
Why?
I don't know. A gut feeling, which I think sometimes like leads to good things. I think Aaron Rodgers wants to prove it again, and I think they might fight for. I think they're going to continue fighting for Tomlin, and I don't know Houston. At least Houston's offense, right? That's something that we've talked about a lot. It's not necessarily amazing. I know C.J. Stroud can do it. They've got good weapons with Nico Collins, but I don't know if a strange thing's going to happen. It'll probably be with the Pittsburgh Steelers. To be totally honest with you, but could be wrong on that. I'm drafting. I'll say this. I'm drafting Kenneth Gainwell in drafts right now. Guillotinies, I'm good with it. I know this is a tough defense, but the format when we talk about it, it's all about floor, and you just need to survive and advance in those. And with Kenneth Gainwell, since week 11, he's only had 2 games under 16 PPR points. So I think even when we look at game environment, he's going to not necessarily thrive, but do well enough to get you points, and that's what you want.
Yes, in this format in the Guillotine, I do think that could work out because number one, he's going to be a late round pick, and the floor is high because of what he can do in the passing game. And assuming they lose, you can just replace them off the waiver wire. The one thing that
Yeah.
you do have to keep in mind, though, the waiver wire will not be as plentiful as it is during the regular season
No.
because you'll have teams get eliminated. One actual fantasy team get eliminated, but then you will have real life teams get eliminated. But you should have all your Denver and Seattle players available unless someone takes JSN like you. So you'll have
Woo!
those players available off the waiver wire. So, and look, there's no way you can have a roster of 8 players and all of them survive week 1.
No. No. I mean, that would be crazy. I guess it can happen, right? But that would be
Chances are slim. Yeah. I mean,
a
like,
little bit nuts. Yeah.
so if you have like, I have 3 Rams. So if they survive, all right, cool. And then I don't even know if I have anyone else multiple on a team, multiple players. But if, say, I have that team and they survive, then yeah, that puts you in a good spot. But more than likely, you're going to have to replace a player or two.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you want to have an idea of teams that you think are going to go far, and you really just need to stick with it. And that's not just for guillotines, but those are for some of the bigger contests if you're participating in those. I know we're doing drafts and streams with RT Sports this week, but you just kind of want to have an idea of who you think, like I said, who you think's going to the Super Bowl. Work your way backwards. That's how I like to do it, Adam, when I'm building some of these teams and some of these lineups, because it just makes it a more cohesive story. And I think that's really important when you're drafting, when you're building these teams. It's just to make sure that you kind of know where you stand with the not only who you think is going to go to the Super Bowl, but throughout the rest of the playoffs there. So again, I mean, Houston, we've seen them do it before. They've gotten, I will say, I guess their run game, right? They've been able to run the ball with more efficiency a little bit there. I drafted Woody Marks yesterday in a different draft, but I just still overall the offense over the last few weeks took a little bit of a step back. So I'm really curious how they're going to come out in this one, but it should still be a good game. It's a Monday night game. We're going to watch it.
Yeah, I mean, we just hope that it's a competitive game. I expect it to be low scoring.
That's not too much to ask, right? What is the total on that game?
39, I think, is what I last saw. Yeah, I can't see a lot of points in the game.
I hope we're wrong.
39 and a half.
Where would you put the Texans in a power ranking right now? Are they inside your top 10?
Top 10?
Yeah. Of all the playoff teams.
I mean, they'd have to be in the top 10.
Top 8? Top 8?
I think so, yeah. Look, so we know how dominant their defense is. It all comes down to what are you getting out of their offense? Because I think we would all agree they're probably second best defense in the playoffs. Some people might say 1, but you want to say Seattle 1, them 2. So
or Denver.
I'd take the Texans defense.
Okay. All right.
So we know how dominant they could be defensively. It all comes down to what are they going to get out of this offense, because they're still concerned about the running game. They just have not been able to run the ball all season long, especially near the goal line and short yardage. And then it comes down to, CJ Stroud, who we saw last week get off to a great start and then did nothing. So that's the question with the Texans is, can they get enough out of their offense? Because I think we all believe their defense is legit and can carry them. But you're going to have to get something out of the offense. There's probably people who have the Texans going to the Super Bowl. I think you'll see some predictions out there with the Texans going to the Super Bowl. With the AFC so wide open and as dominant as their defense can be, I think there's a path there where they could get there.
I mean, and we talk about their defense and how good of a unit that is, and sometimes that's all it takes for people to pick them to go that far. Because even when we're saying all these things about how not necessarily great the offense is, they don't have to do much, right? If that defense is going to play the way that they usually do, you can look at it like when the Seahawks had the Legion of Boom, and you can look at the other side of the ball and say, okay, if your defense is going to do that, if your defense is going to help this Houston Texans team that much, if they can score what, Adam, 20 points, then maybe you say to yourself, okay, that's going to be a really tough team to beat, because they can keep the other, whoever they're playing, their opponents, they can keep out of that game. They just need like maybe 20 and they're on their way.
Yeah, it's basically do not turn the ball over. Let your defense do the job, play the field position battle, and one touchdown and a few field goals might be enough.
Exactly. Oh, that's what's going to make it so fun. I want to keep talking through these games, of course, keep going through the power rankings. We haven't talked yet about the Chargers. Even though I'm wearing the Chargers shirt, we'll break them down. And of course, the Patriots. We'll go through the 49ers and the bigger game, too, going through the Chicago Bears and what our expectations are on the other side with Jordan Love as well. We're going to break that down here coming up next. If you call yourself a sports fan, you got to have Xfinity. All the games all in one place. And here's what you get when you watch sports with Xfinity. You get that sports zone. So that means every pro football game and over 1,000 college games, all the highlights, all the alerts, all in one place. You can also get that multi-view, one of my personal favorites. That means you can be in up to 4 stadiums at once. The Xfinity Fan View brings you live scores, odds, and stats personalized to you and the teams that you actually care about. And you also get that enhanced 4K and that voice remote where you can just say football. Imagine all your football all in one place. Easy. Learn more at Xfinity.com. Restrictions apply. New residential customers only. Taxes and fees extra and subject to change. This is Fantasy Life. We appreciate everyone hanging out with us here on this Wednesday. Ooh, had to look that up, Adam. It's time flies when you're having fun, right?
Exactly. That is true. Days don't matter when you're having fun.
Days don't matter. They do a little bit. I don't know. We got football coming up though, and that's the most fun part. I saw here a message from Jack again at Valenzuela 17 at Adam Ronis over there on X. If you've got questions about any kind of Guillotine League format or just any kind of playoff contest that you're in, questions about this weekend, send them in. We're here to help. He said that he's a Patriots hater and that we're jinxing the Patriots right now by not talking about them. So maybe we need to change our tune. I know. But we were joking that maybe we should just continue to not talk about them. Little reverse psychology.
For some people that works.
Some people it does. It's going to, no matter what, it's going to be a great game. I think, so to you, the best game this weekend is Buffalo-Jacksonville, right? I think we're on the same
definitely.
Page. Or the one with the biggest stakes.
That has so many implications for these fantasy football playoffs because there are people who are on the Bills and feel like, hey, it's Josh Allen's time. It's a weak field that he can get it done. And if he can get past this game, then, yeah, I think that they'll have a pretty good shot. But this is a challenging game. Jacksonville's playing very well right now. Now, I know you could look at their schedule and go, okay, well, who have they beaten outside of Denver? And lately during this big winning streak, and that's fair. I mean, they dominated the Chargers, though. That's a playoff team. That's where this run started. They won 35-6. But then afterwards, they beat Arizona, Tennessee, the Colts, the Jets, won in Denver, and won by 14. That's a massive win. You can't take that away. Then the Colts, then the Titans. So you got to be fair here because, everyone's pointing to the Patriots schedule. You got to say that with Jacksonville, too.
Definitely. I would agree. And I think they're the trendy team pick too this year, right? I mean, we always have the one that's a little bit of a darling when we're looking across the landscape of the NFL and with fans. So I think, but I do think they deserve to be there. And I do think, especially with how hot Trevor Lawrence got to end the year, like it just felt all of a sudden, Adam, it felt like 1 week we had a big game from Trevor Lawrence. I can go back and look at what it was, which one it was, but it just felt like all of a sudden everything clicked. And I think that was a point in, if you drafted Trevor Lawrence, obviously, I don't think we could call him like any kind of MVP or anything like that, a fantasy winner. He was good to start the year.
But you could say it in the playoffs, he was.
That's what I was just going to say. On the playoffs, maybe should be considered, a league winner because he just went on this stretch though, that, like I said, it felt like after week maybe 11 or 12, he just went off and it felt like everything clicked on that offense, that Liam Cohen got him exactly where they want to be. He was using his legs more too, which was big because we saw games where he was getting 29, 25, 51, 26 rushing yards with, 6, 8, 5, 4 attempts. And so, or carries, I should say. So I just think that they belong there. I think they can be really, a nasty team in the playoffs. And that's why I think too, like, are you willing to draft Parker Washington? If you think this team could go far, is Parker Washington the guy that you want to get, or is it more ETN for you than anyone else?
Or
both.
I think both. I think you could look at ETN, you could look at Parker Washington, Jacoby Myers. I mean, I think it was a number of factors with why this team started to click. It is a new offense, a new coach, and it takes time. You've heard players say sometimes it takes even more than a year in a new
Mhm.
offense. So he got off to the slow start, and we were all like, oh, here we go. Lawrence got his new coach. It's not happening. It's the same old story. And you have to have some patience. And then it started to turn around. And acquiring Jacoby Myers, too, I think was pretty big. Getting him,
Yeah.
adding another piece, and then it takes pressure off Brian Thomas. It allows Brian Thomas to run some deep routes, and they don't need him to get 12 targets a game like he was getting last year. It just creates less pressure, and it's opened things up for Parker Washington for the
He
last three
looked
games. Yeah,
great.
the last three
Oh my
games. I mean, it's just
gosh.
he's open all the time. I mean, he had the advantage in the slot last week in that matchup, but yeah, it looks, and Brenton Strange too. It's another
Oh
guy
yeah.
that we haven't really talked about. So yeah, the offense is clicking, the defense is playing well. They're really good against the run. So yeah, that is a critical matchup because there are people again who have Buffalo going far, and there are others that have Jacksonville going far,
Mhm.
and that is going to be a critical piece in a lot of playoff drafts.
Yeah. And again, and that's why I look at this game too. Like the Bills' run defense, something that we have to be concerned about. I
Yeah,
know the defense as a whole, but if we're looking at units that have to improve for the playoff run, like we've talked about the Texans offense, maybe a little bit of the Rams defense, we have to have the same conversation about the Bills' run defense because it hasn't been good. And they had big games, obviously, this year defending the run. Like we had that one game against the Eagles, but the Bills like don't have much talent on defense right now. And I think a lot of credit goes to their coaching staff and everything that we've seen this season. But again, you have to be able to get better as the playoffs continue on. And that's going to be one that I think a lot of people are going to try to exploit. And again, Parker Washington, I mean, will Parker Washington be the first receiver that we take off boards in 2026 drafts for like next season?
for Jacksonville,
Yeah. Or do
no,
you
I
think
don't
it's
think
going to
so.
still be Travis Hunter?
That's the other factor too with him.
Yeah.
It won't be him. It'll probably be Jacoby Myers or Thomas.
Dang. Oh
Yeah.
man, this stretch though. I mean, he's looked so good. In the games since he's returned. So that was what, week 16? Since then, over those last stretch of games, 3 games, full-time role, he's averaged 21.1 fantasy points, 91 utilization score, 9.3 targets per game, and a 12.9 ADOT averaged up the target. It's been great.
No, it has been. I still don't think he'll be the first one off the board.
All right. You gonna go back to Travis Hunter?
No, it won't be. I don't
No,
think
I
it'll be
know.
Hunter either.
You think it's Jacoby?
Yeah, it'll be
I
Jacoby or
think it'll be
Bryant,
close.
or yeah, probably.
If we see Parker Washington end the season like we've seen, I think it's going to be a lot closer. Is Trevor Lawrence, just to finish up talking Jacksonville here, is Trevor Lawrence anyone, depending on the format, I guess, Adam, that you'd be willing to take in playoff contests? Or do you think that, because again, you have to look through the rules and stuff. If we're talking about guillotines, like that's one where we don't have a bench. So you're going to be left with a good enough quarterbacks that you can wait. But in some of these other contests, Trevor Lawrence, again, we just said he's on a heater. He's averaged 30.5 points over the last 4 games, and he's thrown for, in those 4 games, an average of 282 yards, 2.8 touchdowns per game. Are you willing, if you believe that Jacksonville can go far, to draft him?
Yeah, look, that's what it comes down to. What is your belief in Jacksonville? If you think they're one and done, then no, it doesn't make sense to do it. But if you feel they're going to beat the Bills and then potentially, make a run, I mean, because if they win and New England wins, they're playing New England.
Yeah.
So if you feel that they can, beat Buffalo and then go into New England and win, then yeah, you would take them.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great game. We'll give our final predictions, or start giving predictions tomorrow. But was that the Duval thing?
Yeah, it was cut off,
Oh
so it sounded a little
gosh.
weird. we didn't get
I
we
was
didn't get
like,
the
I was like,
the
I couldn't
do
tell what
part.
that
So you're like,
was.
it sounded a little bit weird.
But now look at him. We can't even make fun of that anymore because he's like,
No,
oh, you
you
can't make
can't.
fun of me when I take this team to the playoffs after doing that. We're going to continue on. Speaking of the playoffs, we're going to continue going through, players that you should look to draft if you're in those contests, and just some of our playoff rankings, as well as breaking down those games. I really do want to talk, and we haven't mentioned them yet today, but I really do want to talk about that Bears Packers game and our expectations there. We're going to break that one down coming up next. This is Fantasy Life. Hopefully, everyone's having a great start to their Wednesday, getting ready for the playoffs, getting ready for lunch. Adam, what are we doing? Pizza? Pizza
I
tonight?
haven't decided yet, but pizza
Dang
does sound
it.
very appealing right now.
Oh, it sounds so good. I'm making spaghetti tonight for dinner. And it's a
Spaghetti?
good old spaghetti and meatballs. Just the originals.
I see. I'm not one to
No
speak. I
lasagna.
was gonna say
Why?
that doesn't sound difficult, but I probably
Oh
couldn't do
no.
it.
But please, you're not in there. What are we talking about? Not difficult though. Not like the lasagna. But
Yeah, that's complex. I've
I
seen that
know.
made. I'm like, damn.
I've got a good recipe though. But yeah, it's a labor of love. Let's just say that. But it
I just
does
don't
lead
have
us
that. I
to
don't have that labor of love for cooking.
listen, it leads us to if it led you to Cowboys victories in the regular season and the playoffs, I feel like you'd be making it. But it's only for the
Probably
Seahawks
not.
this year. Two people messaged me saying that they also made lasagna, and I love that for them and myself. So we're just gonna start a little club. Lasagna club.
Do
Club
people
lasagna.
also message you that they go to bed like 8 p.m.?
No, but they do ask me if I'm still awake at
I
like
know.
8
That's
p.m.
funny.
So
I find it hilarious. During
my
the
own mother
games,
does. My own mom does that. Like
good
it's and
job.
no, not good job. Let's
Yeah, I
not
think
do
it's
that. I'm
funny.
sure she's listening right now. It's
She's
not.
probably
I'm
she's having a
always awake. I'm always awake. No, I'm not usually. Like those Mariners games, especially, I got so many messages when those games went into extras, which I think was a totally valid question. I did stay up though.
good
And I will
job.
be doing that for the playoffs. I don't think we have late games though. Oh, I did see that basketball game that you talked about last night, kicking off that Kings game that
Yeah,
started
and
at like 9 p.m. my time or something like that.
11
Crazy.
p.m. Eastern. The
That's
worst part
insane.
about it was like every other game, because it was a light schedule, was done by like 10:30 p.m. Eastern. So you had this stretch of
And then you had
no
to wait.
like, come on, just start the game early. What are we doing?
I don't know why. I would be so pissed if I lived on the East Coast and like that team and had to wait that long to watch that game. I think that's
To
dumb.
be
But that's
fair, it
just
was
me.
Sacramento Dallas, so it wasn't the most
Not
appealing
good.
matchup. Again,
That's
there's good
true.
players to watch in that game, but at least tonight, the last two games are 10 Eastern, so
Oh,
an
perfect.
earlier night for me
There we
tonight.
go. Earlier night, so like
Yeah,
2:30, 3.
Well, the games will be over by like 12:45, 1, and then I'll
Yeah,
probably
but you won't
watch
go to
something
sleep.
or
You
be
should watch
drafting.
oh yeah, we'll be drafting guillotinelinks.com, of course. You should watch The Pit though. You should start that.
You know,
A new
I've
season's
heard
coming.
good things about that show, and I've
It's
been
really good.
pondering whether I should watch it. So yeah.
If you don't like medical stuff though, because I've heard it's very well written and that
Hmm.
it's very like it does mirror what would happen in emergency rooms. So I've heard really good things and I watched it. It was great. If you don't like any of that stuff though, like blood, don't watch it because
Okay.
yeah, there's a lot. But it
Well,
is
we'll
really
see
good. And
if
a new season's coming out.
in the chat, Brendan, Tim, Brian, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down if you
No,
guys have seen it.
what, you don't trust me?
No, I
It's a good
don't
show.
actually.
Oh, come on. What are we
I'm just
doing
looking for
here?
another opinion. That's all.
Why? I just told you it was good. I've given you such good shows. White Lotus, I told you about.
You
You
did
loved
say
that
White
show.
Lotus. That
Yeah,
was
I told
great.
you about Shrinking. You
That
loved
was
that
great.
show. I'm 2
Yes,
for 2. What are you
that's
talking
true.
about?
Okay,
Ugh,
that's
come on.
fair.
You should watch though. It goes very quick. And it's a good show. Anyway, other good things that you can do today? Question mark? Ugh, bad transition. Sorry, everyone. I'm trying here. Guillotinelinks.com though is where you can go and find those drafts that we've been talking about. I'll make sure to tweet out a couple links. We'll do a couple more drafts today. Again, I like to do the single chop, but there's a double chop as well. Double the teams, double the chops though. So that means 2 people are out every single week, and that makes drafting a little bit more difficult because you have less players to choose from. Those single chops though, no benches, regular format, 2 flex, 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, 1 quarterback, 1 tight end. So we'll get those done here today as well. I really do want to know though, and we're going to really be breaking these games down at length here in the next couple of days. But that Green Bay Chicago game. So I thought based on seeding and Chicago being at home that they would be favored, but they're not. So I don't know if you count that as an upset alert, kind of upset watch kind of thing with the Chicago Bears, but I kind of want to start with Green Bay, what your expectations are for Jordan Love. And if you like any of those receivers in any type of format, if you have any of those receivers ranked really high for some of those playoff contests at all.
Well, we always know it's a challenge with Green
Yeah.
Bay and their receivers because they spread the ball around. The one guy that I do like is Christian Watson because we know he can get it done with the big play. I do have Green Bay winning this game. So
Okay.
was doing an RT Sports draft, and I think I took Watson in round 8. So in that one, it's 6 teams, 10 rounds. So as you get further in the draft, you're going to see teams that are one and done or maybe win one game. But yeah, I think Watson could have success against this Bears team. We did see it in that first matchup, 4 for 89 and 2 touchdowns. The second matchup is when Jordan Love left the game with a concussion. Here's something interesting, too. I tweeted this out yesterday. You know, Jordan Love is going to play the Bears for the third time in his last 4 games because he missed 3 weeks.
What?
Yeah, he missed 3 weeks.
Wow.
So this is the third time in 4 games Jordan Love is going to face the Bears.
I'm having such a hard time in this game. I think I'm going to go with you on Green Bay. I don't love it. I think Luther Burden could also be a really nice late round pickup because I think they're going to need him in this game. But Christian Watson has been the clear top option for the Packers down this stretch. And the Bears, like if we're talking about defense, this Bears team gives up the 3rd biggest fantasy boost to opposing wide receivers. So there is a way for that to look good. So I think Watson can put up solid scores in a win or a loss, to be totally honest with you. If they do lose this game and we're talking guillotine formats, like he's going to put up points for you. I still, again, on the other side, like Luther Burden. If you're worried about the loss, if you think that you want to go with the Bears and you believe that the Bears are going to win this game, I'd go with Burden on this one. But we'll have to wait
Loveland
and see.
too.
Oh, yeah, Colston Loveland. I think there's some really good picks. And we're going to continue going through those rankings as the week continues on. We're, of course, going to start really breaking down into detail these games that we have coming up for the NFL playoffs. But as always, fantasylife.com to subscribe to that newsletter, guillotineleagues.com to go and play those Guillotine League formats for the playoffs guillotines. We appreciate everyone hanging out with us here today. We'll be with you same time tomorrow. See you then.